Yo, what's up? It's James. It's been a while. It's been a lot going on. I'm a college student, so I don't always have time to sit down and script a video and get my thoughts out, and especially to record. So for this video, I want to get something out. So I'm just kind of not script it and just talk about the season so far, and whatever I say, I say. So we're just gonna roll with it. Yeah, this season has been interesting to say the least. There's been a lot of really good games, some really bad games as well. I would say so far it's lived up to the hype, but I definitely expected more out of some teams than I've seen. First of all, the Rams, dude, they have disappointed the hell out of me this season. I'm a Rams fan. I'm a Matthew Stafford fan in particular. And both Stafford and that team have looked like absolute crap so far this season. They're 2-2, which, could be a lot worse. But the games they've lost, they've really lost. And they've lost, I mean, the Bills, understandable. I still don't think you can really reason a 21-point loss, no matter how you slice it. But it's understandable to lose to the Bills. They're a very good team. Niners, on the other hand, though, I mean, I know they always beat the Rams during the regular season, but that was such a bad performance. That was so sad. And it's just it was so sloppy. Just the O line was bad. Stafford wasn't making some of the throws he should have made. It was not good. And the Rams have just been incredibly disappointing. And I think they can turn around. I think they can still be a solid team. But 4 games into the season, they have not been a contender at all. Um, Outside of them, other teams that have somewhat disappointed me, the Broncos, man, the Broncos have been not good. I think they're also 2-2. They actually did beat the Niners by 1 point, but that offense has just been terrible, man. Russell Wilson has not looked like a top 10 quarterback at all, which is surprising because when he was last healthy, he was looking fantastic. So to see him struggling in the way he has is ridiculous, and some of that might be up to coaching. I really don't think their head coach is coached up to an NFL level yet. I believe it's his first year, Nathaniel Hackett, and he has not looked good. He's really made some bad decisions, and I just think he has a lot to work on. And overall, the team as a whole does. A few teams have exceeded my expectations, however. The Eagles mostly. They're 4-0, and they look fantastic. They've had a few close games. The last one against the Jaguars was a bit of a dogfight. But in general, that team's look great. And Jalen Hurts especially. If you look at his numbers, they don't jump out. But he's been very productive, and he's done exactly what he's needed to do to help them win. And I think that's huge because he was to me, he was kind of on the fence as whether he was going to be their starter going forward. But with how he's played so far this season, absolutely, he looks like a franchise quarterback. Another team that's been surprising me is the Dolphins. I didn't think the Dolphins were going to be as good as they had been. Also, prayers out to Tua. That was terrible. He should have never been in that game. I don't know what the coach was thinking, or really the medical staff, I think, is more to blame. But that was terrible. He shouldn't have been in the first place to take that hit, and just it was a scary hit. And I pray he's okay, health wise, and I pray everything works out for him. But even still, the Dolphins have been a really good team, especially with him at the helm, and he's looked fantastic. That 6 touchdown game against Baltimore was one of the best displays of offense I've seen, ever. It was fantastic, and that comeback was just remarkable. But he's been great. The Dolphins have been great, and I do hope he comes back soon, but not too soon. Just take time to heal up and then come back, and hopefully he returns to the level he was playing at before. In terms of other teams that have been disappointing to me and have failed to meet my expectations, I think the Colts have been a little disappointing too. I wasn't expecting them to be great, but they're in a weak division, so I expected them to look a little bit better, and they just haven't. Matt Ryan's age is definitely showing. Jonathan Taylor has played good, but not up to the level at which I expected him to, and overall the team has just been really disappointing. The Ravens, they've been good, but they keep choking leads. That's the big thing with them. They just can't hold on to a lead. They choked a lead against Miami, and they just choked another one against Buffalo, and it's ugly to see because they're doing everything right until the late game situations, and they just choke. And they're choking leads against good teams, but even still, if you can't be good teams, how are you supposed to be a contender, a real contender? So I don't know. Lamar's looked fantastic. Props to him, but it just hasn't been enough. And I really think they need to change something. I don't know if Harbaugh's doing something wrong. I don't know what it is, but they need to get that figured out so they can come through late in games and actually start putting some wins together so that the record can show just how productive they've really been. Back to teams that have been pleasantly surprising. Detroit, man, I love myself some Detroit Lions football. Usually, I mean, they usually suck, but this season they've been good. Offensively, at least, their defense has been absolutely atrocious. If they had a good defense, no, let me scratch that. If they had an average defense, they'd probably be 3-1. Genuinely, they've looked that good this year on offense, but it's just their defense is just failing them, and it's they show flashes. Aiden Hutchinson had a game where he had 3 sacks, I think, against Washington. And he looks good, and overall the team, the defense has flashes, but it fails, overall. Like they're averaging 35.3 points given up, and the offense is averaging 35 points scored. That's an insane statistic. And if their defense just stepped up a little bit, this team could be really, really good. Like a playoff team, I'm saying. Like, and that's remarkable given what Detroit is. Campbell's doing a great job on offense. Another surprising team to me has been the Jaguars. They're only 2-2, but I mean they've looked really, really good. Trevor Lawrence especially has been fantastic. He's been very efficient. He's not turning the ball over as much, and he's throwing a lot more touchdowns, or at least a similar amount compared to last season, while playing a lot more mistake free. He's looked fantastic. He's had a few mistakes, obviously, a few fumbles that probably could have been avoided, and like the one interceptions he has had have been sort of like on him. But I still think he's looked good overall, and I think he's progressing really well as a second year quarterback. A lot better than some people expect him to, and I think if he keeps progressing, that team is only going to get more and more dangerous, especially as they keep adding weapons. And Jaguars have been a fun team to watch, and I hope they continue to flourish because it's about time Jacksonville is good, and not just for like 1 year like they were in 2017. So I hope they can get more consistent. I feel like this video might come across as if I'm like talking about every team. That's not the goal. I'm just kind of talking about teams that come into my mind right away. So if I leave any teams out, my fault. But maybe I'll leave a comment saying my thoughts about them, or maybe it's just whatever. Who cares? I will say teams that have like played up to my expectations. Buffalo, they've looked good. I expected them to. I still think they're probably the Super Bowl favorite. Kansas City, I think a lot of people were underestimating them heading into the season because they lost Tyreek Hill, but that really hasn't seemed to affect them. They're playing absolutely phenomenal, and Mahomes is the most video game-esque player I've ever seen. He's ridiculous. Like that, the play in the last game where he completely ad-libbed. He ran out the pocket, hit the spin, and just like flipped it up. That was insane. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Uh, but he's phenomenal, and that team as a whole has looked great. I think they're really Buffalo's only true challenge in the AFC. Although there's other good teams, I just think those are probably the top two realistically. Especially if Tua's injured and the Dolphins don't have him coming back soon. We're gonna have to see how that goes. Prayers up to him, like I said. In the NFC, Bucks have looked fine. They haven't been phenomenal the whole way through, but they've done good enough overall. And I mean, they lost to Kansas City, but that was also a dogfight. And in general, they've looked about it as I expected them to. Really solid. Um, I think the Seahawks are playing to my expectations. The only game they really won that I wasn't expecting them to was the Denver game. And the fact they won that game is more of a testament to how bad Denver's been than how good Seattle's been. Because Seattle has not been good, but Denver also has not been good. But Geno Smith looked great that game, and since then he's been okay. Not fantastic, but not terrible. He's very efficient. His completion percentage, I think, is the highest in the NFL right now. The highest through 4 games at like 77%. I saw a statistic earlier. He's playing very clean, which I respect. But that team is just not the best, if we're honest. Yeah, a team that's like really been disappointing to me is the Saints, man. I thought the Saints were going to be good, and they have not been. Jameis is kind of throwing interceptions again. He's not really looking that good. Michael Thomas is injured, which happens, but I was hoping it wouldn't. Chris Olave is the only bright spot to me so far. I think he's the offensive rookie of the year. I thought that before the season started, and as time has gone on, I think he still is. He's been phenomenal. It kind of got a slow start in week 1, but since then he had a game where he had like 147 yards or something like that, and he got a touchdown last week. He's playing really well. I think if him and James can continue to build a connection, especially with Michael Thomas out, then he could really have a special season. The Cardinals have been also about what I expected them. Unlike the Saints, they've actually not disappointed me, but they haven't like exceeded my expectations either. They've just been okay. Kyler Murray continues to be like a top 15-esque quarterback, but I wouldn't really put him in the upper echelon at this point. He still has all the tools, but it's just something is just missing. And I don't know if it's just like the team around him or what it is, but they're just not amazing, but they're solid. They look worse this year than they did last year, which I kind of expected, especially with DeAndre Hopkins' suspension going on. When he comes back, this team could be better, but I still just don't think they're going to be that great overall. They might make the playoffs, but they're not a contender. The Niners, shout out Trey Lance, or like prayers up to him. It's unfortunate that he got hurt. He's a bright young quarterback. I'm not sure like what that team is going to continue to look like without him. They beat the Rams, obviously, but like I said, they seem to always beat the Rams in the regular season. I don't know why that is. It just is. But them running it back with Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be interesting. I mean, he got them to the Super Bowl before, but I'm not convinced that this team is as good as that one was. And overall, I think Trey Lance would have been a better solution for them going forward. But also he is unproven. So I mean, maybe Jimmy G will be like a secret savior. Who knows? But regardless, I do hope Trey Lance is all right, and I hope he gets back to playing football soon because it'd be really good to just see him try to flourish and at least get a fair shot. Also, shout out to the Packers for playing about as well as I expected them to. They're 3-1 right now, and outside of Week 1, which they got demolished, and I don't know why that seems to be a trend with them the past 2 years. I don't know if just like it just is what it is. I don't know if Rodgers is on too much ayahuasca. I don't know what's going on. But Week 1, they just seem to get destroyed. And then they're back at it Week 2, and the same thing this year. They've come out since then and played really well, beating the Bears, which, of course, beat the Bucks, though, which was solid. And then last week kind of struggled against the Patriots against Bailey Zapp. So that's kind of not a great show. Shout out Bailey Zapp. He was one of my favorite college quarterbacks, but it was his first game, and he took him into overtime, which isn't a great sign. But still, overall, the team hasn't been bad. I don't think they're like gonna make the Super Bowl. I don't think they're really contender for that, but they've looked solid. They'll probably still win the North. Yeah, just playing up to my expectations. Shout out to Rodgers for overcoming the lack of weapons that he has. I had a feeling he might, but it still was gonna be hard for anyone to like overcome losing Devontae Adams and like most of your other receiving talent. So kudos to him. The defense has looked pretty solid, like I expected. Overall, the team's still good. Just don't think they're gonna be a real contender, but you know, not that bad. Carolina has been very disappointing to me. I knew they weren't going to be good, but I was hoping they'd at least be exciting, and they haven't been. I think Matt Rule is just not a good NFL coach. He was solid in college, but he's just not an NFL coach, which is fine. Some guys aren't, but it's just a little disappointing. And I really like Baker. A lot of guys don't like Baker. I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield, and I was hoping he'd play better this year, and he kind of hasn't. Christian McCaffrey, this is probably his healthiest season up to this point in a couple years. He's looked good, but that's about all the Panthers really have. And even then, his looking good hasn't really contributed to team success, and the offense has kind of not been as amazing as I was expecting. It's sad to see. I like Carolina. I was hoping they'd be decent, and they're just not. I think a new head coach would help. I think they need to retool a lot, but it's just I'm disappointed by them. Hopefully they turn it around. I just don't see it happening. But shout out Baker, shout out C-Mac, rooting for y'all, but y'all kind of suck right now. Not y'all in particular, but just the team. We'll see what happens. Okay, so overall, I don't want this video to be too long. Probably I want it to be about the same length as my other videos, so I'm gonna just probably cut it off here. If I didn't talk about your team, my fault. But this is just kind of something to get out so I can get back on track. I want to start doing like weekend reviews, similar to what other channels do. But it's just with my real life schedule, it's kind of hard to do that. But hopefully, I can get back on track and I can get to doing that. And if not, then probably expect something like this again. But shout out football. I love football, and if you watch this, shout out to you too. And hopefully see you in the next video. Either way, much love.